I feel
I
like we talk about food. I think people need that. You know what
I
I
feel
mean?
like I feel like that's my role in life is to give you a
Yeah,
break from talking about all this other madness.
I know. Well, it never goes away. It's okay. I
But
have, like, little breakdowns, but people check in with me and make it better, and so that's good. That helps. A good thing.
oh, I had one 2 weeks ago. Like
Yeah, like a
like,
burnout.
uh yeah, I like or it maybe it was longer than that. It was when Iran started kicking off
Mhm,
because, the Iraq war got me into, politics,
mhm. Right.
before that, it's like I
Yeah.
just didn't care. I was very much, like, both parties are the same kinda guy, which I'm kinda back to, like,
Yeah.
in certain degrees,
Yeah,
but,
I
like
know. I know. I get it.
yeah, but, like, when Iran happened with this regime, I was like, it pulled up all that Iraq war stuff, like
Mhm.
'03. I was like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be
Yeah.
so much worse," and I wrote a piece, I was just like, "I'm tired of talking about politics,"
Yes, I know.
and then I think
Yeah.
something brought me back, like, as it always does, I can't remember what it was, you know, he did something dumb, it's
What?
like right, and I said, "Oh," I think it oh, yeah, it was the ice in the airports.
Oh. Is that
Yeah.
still happening? Has that calmed down since he's offered to pay? We're flying out next Friday morning, and oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
I see, that's the thing is, like, I don't know if TSA has, like, gotten paid yet. Um,
Right.
I mean, the take I had was I thought it was the dumbest thing you could possibly do,
Mm.
because I saw a lot of takes were like, "He's normalizing ICE and da da da," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, this is just
Yeah,
an
I don't think anybody
absolute."
took.
Yeah, this is just a reaction because it's like, "Oh, Iran's not going the way I thought it would, so I'll show
Yeah.
you plebs."
Well, and also, if you wanna piss off Republicans, like, make them pay more money for something. Like, if you looked into how much TSA agents are paid per hour versus how much ICE agents are paid per hour, it's like twice. And so, like, you're paying double for these people to take over these people that you're not paying for. So if that's your only shtick and you don't care about, human rights, that's probably a problem for Republicans if they pay attention. But I don't know if they pay attention. Who knows?
Well, but to your point, and this is it, is, I was talking with a buddy of mine. The thing is with Americans, we're kind of convenience addicted, you know? We're kind of entitled to it a little bit. Not actually a lot. But you've got a lot of people that are purposely what's getting harder and harder is for people to keep their head in the sand, right? Is to avoid
Mhm.
politics. And there's a segment of people, probably the ones that didn't vote in 2024, that just want it's like they will put up with a lot of stuff as long as they can just kind of live their lives. And it's like,
Yeah.
you'll beat them down a little more and they're like, okay, fine, I'll just work another job or I'll get this on the side or I'll do this or I'll do
Mhm.
that. And they save, and because I worked in aviation, these are the same folks that will save up for years, maybe all year, and they take their
Yeah.
kids, on a trip, and they're going to be confronted with this reality head on in the airport,
Yeah.
and they're going to get to see it. And it's like, oh, so you are going to expose people that have been trying to avoid this to it, and then they're going to tell everybody, right?
Yeah.
I had to wait 4 hours at TSA line, and we had to go early, and with the kids, and it's like, why? Well, there's these ICE guys there, and blah blah blah,
Doing
and
nothing
that's how
on
this stuff.
airports.
And then suddenly, the
Yeah.
polls go, more Americans don't approve of ICE. What could possibly be that?
Basically, their convenience.
Right.
That's that pretty much sums up America. Like, when I see American travelers, I mean, not that I've done a lot of world travel. I've been on one trip outside the US. When you saw Americans, you're like, "Those are Americans." I don't need to hear them talk. I know those are Americans because it is. There's just, like, this aura of, like, "This is for me, right? Like, I get this, right? Out of my way. This is mine."
I was in Munich, and so we landed. I was on a trip with the buddy. We landed in Munich, and then we were going to go to Prague by train. and I'm in Munich, and Munich, for those of you who haven't been there, is kinda like it's got a little bit of a Las Vegas atmosphere to it.
Mhm.
Like, there's, burlesque shows and casinos and all this other stuff, and including, like, the old sort of medieval kind of, you
Yeah.
know, high Renaissance buildings, which for the D&D kid in me, I was like, "I'm gonna go over there and look at all this kinda cool stuff," and, it's like, I bet this would be Forgotten Realms, like, that kinda stuff, right? I was yeah, I know, I was letting my dork flag for so there I am, like, I'm walking across the street and, they have all these, burlesque women outside and they're
Mhm.
hollering at like all these other people. And I got an ear listening to like the different languages. I kind of learned that in DCA when I'm
Mhm.
walking through the terminal and you'll hear it's kind of cool because you'll hear all these different languages being
Yeah.
spoken. And so I'm hearing French, I'm hearing German, I'm hearing Italian, like all these women are like they're each kind of hollering in different languages. All by a sudden, I hear in English, "You, American!" And I was like, "Don't look over there, bro." Like this
Like, don't do
yeah.
it.
And they said, "Big man, you across the street." I went, "Oh, shit." And that I looked and they're like she's pointing at me, "Yeah, you."
Yeah,
I was like
they know. Give the
like,
vibe.
"Oh, well, yeah, of course." I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm like, and I couldn't help myself. I walked across the street, it's like, "How do you know I'm not Canadian?" They're like, "You're American."
Mhm.
And I had the beard and everything. I was like, "I got this beard," you know? I was like, no lumberjack vibe going on. Like, I can't be like, "Oh," like,
Nope.
nothing? Nope. American. Can't hide it,
Yep. They
you
know.
know?
Yeah, no, but I mean, I don't know what I looked like when the only time I've ever been outside the North American continent, because we lived right by Canada for a long time,
Right.
was in the ninth grade when my sibling went to school. They went to school in Andrews in Scotland. So I've been on one trip outside North America, and the person sitting next to me traveled in a kilt the whole way there. And then we got there and there was nobody in kilts. Like, there was not the only person in a kilt in Scotland was, like, the guard representing the castle in Edinburgh. Like, that was the only person I saw. Like, people don't wear kilts in Scotland every day, but this person traveled from Seattle in a kilt. And and I remember just thinking like, "Ah, man, they know." They totally know who's here. But then you go there and they have all these, like, woolen shops, right? Where you go get your real wool, lanolin smelling sweater to take back to America. And up in the corner, they'd have a TV playing real American line dancing because everybody there wanted to learn how we all know how to line dance in America. And I was like, "No, no, no, we don't do that. That's not us." Or something. And so I was like, "Okay, so there's stereotypes all over the place. All right." But
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. There's absolutely, like, stereotypes all over the place. Yeah. Like, foreign travel is interesting because,
mhm.
man, I remember I was in Paris, and I was with a buddy of mine. This was when I was in grad school, and he was he was, like, South Korean, like, Korean, French, Canadian,
Uh-huh.
right? And how all that kinda mixed together was he looked like he could be from kinda anywhere in Europe, right? Almost like like, it's like, is he Turkish? Is he Italian? Like, you could it's
Mhm.
like, you couldn't really tell. But and he lived abroad, so he kinda had this kinda European, like,
Right.
whatever kinda attitude, and we were going to there's a I can't remember the name of the chapel, but, like, it's it's on a hillside, and you go up to it, and
Mhm.
you can kinda see all of Paris standing on top, and they have these little landings on your way up, right? And in those landings, there would be these immigrants, and they'd be trying to sell
Mhm.
stuff, da da da. And he's like, my buddy's like, just be careful, man. They're really aggressive towards Americans, And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. And so he was walking ahead of me because I'm sitting there taking pictures. He goes through the landing. Nobody moves. Nobody does
Right.
anything. Right? They're all just kind of sitting and chatting. It's like as soon as I put one foot on that landing, I got swarmed, right?
Mm.
And they're like, "Oh, buy this necklace, American." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "Man, I'm good, man." I'm trying to walk through. One of them grabs my wrist and he's like, "You need to buy this." And he tries to put it on, and I pull it away, and I'm like, "I'm good, man." You know. And I start to walk away, and I'll never forget this. He says, "Oh, come on, be American. Don't be like Japanese tourists."
Why?
I said, "Oh,"
Uh,
I said, "Dude, that's funny. Here you go.
yeah.
Here's €5."
Well, like, it's like Times Square. Times Square, they know if you're a tourist. Well, if you're a tourist, you're gonna be in Times Square, everybody else is avoiding it, but, like, it's the same thing, like, they have the people who are like, "Look, my band has a CD," which is like, "It's 2026, why does your band have a CD?" But, like, there's people handing out CDs, there's the Elmo people who are dressed as, like, Sesame Street characters, but they're the most worn down, aggressive, filthy Sesame Street characters, and people are attracted to them because they've got their little kids and they want their pictures, but it's the same deal. It's very aggressive. Like, my dad was like, thought he was helping. He was like, "Sure, I'll take your CD," because he thought it was free. And the guy's like, "That's $100." I was like, "Dad, don't give the CD back. Like, don't talk. Like, nobody here is out for your, health." Like it's an aggressive nah, and that is the thing in New York, like, tourists versus non-tourists because, like, people who live there are on their phones, people who don't live there are looking up and looking around, and they catch you right away. They know if you're looking up, they're gonna try to get some money from you.
It's funny? So this is years ago. God, it's 10 years ago now. Like, I bought one of the CDs for, like, 20
Mm.
bucks,
Really?
and I did because I was meeting with a buddy of mine. He was a music producer, right?
Yeah.
And I bought one kind of as a joke, but how the guy got me, I started laughing. I looked at him, and he looked at me, he said it was a black dude, and he says, "You look like you have black friends." I start cracking up. I said, "Oh god."
Like,
I said, "Is that
see,
your
but I mean,
pitch?"
the hustle is I mean, it's real in New York. Like,
It's
I remember
beautiful. It's beautiful.
the first
I
time I went with my kids, like, there was a guy who rode by on a motorcycle with a cat in the, like, sidecar, and the cat had a full, like, he had a helmet and a leather jacket, and I was like, "That's so cute." Took a picture, and the guy goes, "Take that off your phone or pay me 20 bucks." And I was like, "I don't think that's legal. I think I can take a picture of your cat." Like, I don't think there's rules against that. And I was like, "No, I didn't take one anyway," and I did, but I walked away. But, you can't charge me to take a picture of your cat in the sidecar of your motorcycle, like, that's not a hustle, like, well, it's a hustle, I don't know. It's New
Yeah,
York.
I mean, somebody's gonna pay him 20 bucks,
Somebody
like,
will. Somebody
yeah,
will.
somebody will be,
Right.
like,
And there and there's no, like, price tags on anything because they can charge you something different depending on who you're but, like, we figured out pretty fast. We were in New York a lot, and, like, there's people who are aggressive. We were somewhere and, like, there's lots of hat salespeople, and my son loves the hats. He likes to go and get a hat every time. We were somewhere one time, and this person selling hats was, like, covered in snakes, and and I was like, "We're not we're not gonna sit here. We're gonna move." Like, I feel
like,
like
were they real? Were they real
snakes,
snakes?
like, snakes, and then 2 hat sales vendors that were too close to each other with both had snakes started fighting, and I was like, "There's people fighting, and they're covered in snakes. We're gonna go." Like, this is very New York, but we gotta go. I don't need this in my life.
That sounds like Indiana Jones. That doesn't sound like
Right.
New York.
I was like I was like, "I don't think people know that this happens in Detroit. I don't know, maybe this does happen in Detroit, but this is
It's too cold.
I don't
It's
need
too
this."
cold.
Yeah,
It's
anyway. So
what?
I was gonna tell you, like, what you were saying you got into politics during the Iraq War. I think I got into politics at birth. I think it was just, like,
Oh, okay.
bred into my DNA. I was I was raised to be very political. I remember when I was a kid, we were very involved in, like, local politics. And so,
Hmm.
we always knew someone on the school board or doing this or doing that. And so, like, I remember sitting with my sibling with a radio right there on election night for whatever it was, and we'd have our little tabulators, and I'm, like, 8, and I'm, like, tabulating all they'd announce how many votes for each person, and then they'd do some updates. And we'd be so excited, and we'd be, like, counting on our little, like, yellow legal pads who had how many votes and who was winning and da da da. I just remember how thrilling that was, and then, like, under I mean, granted, I probably had a biased perspective of whoever was running because you always get it from your parents, but I just remember, like, we always had signs all over our yards, and so now, like, I feel like I've been paying attention. I remember when Trump ran the first time, I was in Missoula. I had a newborn in a backpack, and I was voting at the fairgrounds, and I remember thinking, like, I felt very powerful. I felt kinda like, not to be egotistical, but I was like, "I think I'm a superhero in this moment. I've got a newborn, I've got 2 toddlers, we are voting, and we're gonna do this right." And then I remember after the fact like, Hillary lost, I remember thinking, "Yeah, I was really the only person in that room voting. I don't remember anybody else being there." And I was like, "That probably should have been something to think about." But just, like, I've always tried to be informed. Like in this last
Yeah.
election, when everybody's like, "Oh, Kamala doesn't have an economic plan," I was like, "Well, actually, she does. On her website, it's PDF. It's like 82 pages. Like, I recommend reading it. It's really great. It's a great economic plan." And then you go over to Trump's website, and it was just like all caps yelling of all the people he was going to get if he's elected. Like, there was no policies. And I thought, I wonder if anybody's looked at these websites. I'm guessing nobody's looked at these websites, but like that, and that became my original, I guess, intent for coming to Substack, I mean, other than writing, was how to talk about being an informed citizen and that it's easy. Like
Yeah.
we can easily understand the thing we're voting for because all of us have opened up, a voting pamphlet and gone like, I don't know who half these people are, and start voting based on like, I like their name better than that person. You know what I mean? Like we've all done that. But, like, how to understand the things we're voting for. So, like, when the big beautiful bill came along or, like, Project 2025 came along, like, making things easier to digest and understandable so that like every person who works, a 16-hour a day job can still come home and read this little blurb and understand what's going on in the world. And I think that was my drive when I first came to Substack was to just like I need more people to understand what's going on so that when they go vote, well, however they vote, they know what they're voting for and they don't go, "Oh, I didn't vote for this. This is a
Yeah.
shock to me." Like Joe Rogan goes, "I don't know, man. I'm so
Oh my
surprised." I just wanna be like, "You had every resource, you had every person, you had every dollar, you had an entire platform, you had access to Donald Trump. How did you not know?" And, Joe Schmo Ellie's sitting at home on my couch with my laptop at midnight, and I know. Like, how I'm not wildly intelligent, like, I just knew what to look up and like what to access and how can I do that and how could Joe Rogan with all the resources in the world not do that? And I it is that idea of sticking your head in the sand. Like it is
mm,
he didn't know because he didn't care, right? Like he all these people who are now surprised that Donald Trump is not doing what they want came to it because for them, those guys like Joe Rogan were benefiting financially. They were benefiting with their platform. They were benefiting with free marketing. Like everybody's talking about them and they couldn't look past that to think like, "Oh, there's policies that are going to completely crush America and then I'm going to I mean, that's probably why he's flipping right now is cuz I'm going to be held accountable for saying that we should vote for Donald Trump." That's more what they care about.
I think that's the difference now is because before, um, you could support these horrible people and these horrible
Mhm.
politicians, and if it broke bad, you could say, "Oh, well, I didn't know. I mean, I saw what I voted for," and
Right.
but Trump is so awful and so corrupt and so just that people are going to demand accountability.
Mm.
Like I honestly think that the biggest challenge the Democratic Party is going to have because we're gonna like not me like the Democrats are going to go through the same identity reckoning that the Republicans are going to go through
Mhm. For
because
sure.
you have corporatist Democrats, you have your progressive faction, and and I think even on both sides, the people that want center and stability and a return to normalcy, whatever the hell that
Mhm.
means, and especially progressives, are going to want accountability. And
Mhm.
you are going to have people in power that are going to be terrified to deliver it because the donors and the people that are paying them, a lot of them are in the Epstein files or they enabled the Epstein files. Like they enabled Jeffrey Epstein. And people are not going to let that go. They're not going to be like,
No.
well, Trump's out of power.
Right.
You know, do
You
you
know
want
what
to
would fix that? You know
do
what would fix that?
mm,
Youth. Youth in politics, because there's a generation gap also with the Epstein files. If you're younger than a certain age, you're not in there. You're not being donated to by people. Like, you're away from it.
yep,
If we start fresh with younger candidates who are more progressive and who are free to run their mouths, like they don't care about who they please, like that, oh, we're
yeah,
older and we're more calm and we're spine, like, no, get rid of that and get people who are angry. And they're not going to be in the files because they're too. I mean, even JD Vance, hate him, but he's not in the files. Like, people are all the time like, he's in the files. No, he's not. He's too young. He's not in there. Mike Johnson is not in there. Like, these people are too young to be in the files. They're terrible people. But we need people on the left who are younger. We don't need people who are being like wheeled into Congress and dying to retire, to retire, right? That's how they retire, is they die. Like, we don't need that anymore. It's not working. These places that are working, that we're going, huh, that's actually a great idea. Like New York City, right? Mondani becomes mayor. We have a massive snowstorm. He goes, hey, we're spending a lot of money on snow cleanup. It's an incredible amount of money. What if we just hired New York citizens by the hour to come help clean up the snow? My husband works downtown. He goes, that is the fastest snow cleanup that has ever happened since we've lived here. Fastest. Like, it was gone immediately. They paid less money. New Yorkers had money in their pocket who needed it, and everybody walked away happy. Like, that is a youthful way of thinking. That is progressive. It's innovative. Like, that is what we need. And everybody keeps doing the thing where they go, "Oh, they're young, they're inexperienced, they don't know. We've been here. We're so wildly experienced." And it's like, yeah, but you're 100 years old, and you don't know how to use the internet, and we don't need that anymore. Like, we need
right,
people who know how to open the DOJ website to read the files, because I don't think any of them have actually done that. I was thinking about that last night. I'm like, all these people who are like, "Oh, the files, let's get them." I'm like, have you read any? Like, have you opened them? No. None of you guys are reading it. Like, you're coming to bloggers. This is the thing. They're coming to bloggers. I consider myself a blogger. They're coming to people like me who blog, and they're like, "Can you help us solve the files?" And it's like, dude, you have a law degree and you're running our country, and you're like, can I get a blogger on the phone to help solve this investigation? Like, but it's because, like, there's a youthfulness, and not that I'm the most useful person, but it's because there's young people with innovative ideas who know how to investigate, who know how to research the internet, who know how to do things. And that's the kind of people who should be running the country, because the country is a young run country. Like, we're not getting old, 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 old. All those people are starting to die off. Like, we need to like look back in time and find these young people. And so but nobody's willing to do that. That is the thing with no term limits. That's just so fabulous.
yeah. I think, well, I think you're missing the thing, like on JD Vance
Mm-hmm.
is he's not in the Epstein files, but I've read the files he's in. It's they got released from Ashley Furniture, and so like
Where you're going. Sephora.
there's a lot of statements from love seats that have not been verified by the FBI. So
I figured as much. Yeah, no, he's like wildly corrupt and horrible people
oh yeah,
don't necessarily have to be in the Epstein files. They can just be
no,
doing it all on their own. But like,
but
but
yeah,
yeah,
but that's
like,
it. But that's it. Is like it's these, it's this generation. It's this, it's this donor sort of this class that's hung on for too long, and they're wanting to escape accountability. And to your point, it's like you get younger, like I think, like again, they're going after Hassan Piker, and I know who Hassan is. I've seen him. Like he's been around. Some of his takes are good. Some, I mean, like any other political, uh, I hate the term influencer, but anybody in
mhm,
politics, even mine. Some takes are good. Some takes are bad. I mean, it's just,
mhm,
it is what it is. You debate, you go back and forth. But I think this notion of where, like, the danger in what's coming is people are going to demand accountability. They're going to
mhm.
demand change in our foreign policy, you know, because there are really people, even on both sides, that don't want to go to war for oil anymore. They don't want to
No,
be,
we don't need oil. Like, we literally don't need it. Like,
right.
we could do renewable energy. We have it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and that's it. Is it to your point? Like with Mondani and the snow cleanup, it's like, okay, why aren't we spending money on these other things? Like, why do we have to get a trillion, 1.5 trillion in our defense budget? Why do we have to keep funding the military industrial
Mhm.
complex? Why do we have to keep, I mean, I think Elizabeth Warren actually had a great sort of graphic where she posted like out of every dollar like millionaires and billionaires make, if just like it's like 2 or 3 pennies. If like that's what they, like every dollar, that's what they donated, we would pay for all these things.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like,
I could give a
oh
TED Talk.
yeah, I mean, and you look at that and you go, you're like, why aren't we doing that?
Right.
And I it the a lot of things, like, it's not just breaking our norms. It's Trump. It's not just it's we're he's breaking culture. That's a harder thing to do, right? Because a lot of politicians on both sides, once they get into the in top power, they may tweak with things here and there, but they're not going to break the system. Trump's going to break the system if
Mhm.
he hasn't already. And at that point, I don't know where that ends up, but what I do know is it doesn't seem like people are going to let it go, even if there's conspiracy theorists like yourself that are
Come on. I'm also an influencer. I'm a wild influencer.
you're a why oh
Yeah, I'm an influencer.
that's
I'm hysterical. I'm an opportunist, and I'm a conspiracy theorist. But go on.
I love
We
I
can get to
love
that.
I love I love that. That is such like that's such like an that's such an old
Definitely.
insult, it's like,
I know.
"I'm surprised I didn't call you a dame,"
I know. Like
"This
like
wild
don't
influencer dame with
say
her
you're a misogynist without your saying you're a misogynist and call a woman hysterical who
there
has an
she's
opinion.
hysterical."
Let's do this. Let's have this conversation because I'm here for it. I will do
Well, when I use my old-timey speech, I say, "Oh, that Ellie Leonard gal, she's got moxie."
it. Excuse me while I hike up my skirts and have an opinion.
So
No, I
so for those of you who don't know, recently Michael Wolff and the Michaels, the
word.
Epstein protectors, called you a conspiracy theorist, all the names we just went over.
Yep. Yep.
And my first thought when I heard that, I was like, "Man, Ellie's made it. She's got enemies. This is great." Like,
I don't want
you
enemies. Like I want to be left alone. No, I like when we were talking about like burning out. Like, I
yeah.
burn out too. I burn out pretty hard, and I try to find ways to, like, manage it and function, and I think my biggest burnout is 2 things. Number 1 is people have called me an Epstein expert, and I'm not. There's greater and more informed people, many than I, who have been doing this for a decade or more. Zev Shalev is one, Julie K. Brown is another. Like, there's people who are the experts on this topic, but there's a lot of pressure when people think that you're the go-to person on a subject because you want to get it right, but then you're just like, there's so much information I cannot be knowledgeable in all of it at the same time, and it's a lot of
Right.
pressure. But the second thing, I think the thing that burns me out the most is that idea of people knowing who I am. I have been anonymous my whole life, as we are all, we're born into this world fairly anonymous unless you're famous parents, whatever. Um, and I think, you don't cherish it enough until it's gone a little bit. But the idea of somebody like Michael Cohen hopping on a podcast, and saying my name is not something that I really want, um, or need in my life, and but also just the idea of, you know, I don't know, I lived so long in my work doing some really cool projects with really great people, but I was always a fly on the wall, right? Like, turned off
Mhm.
my computer at night and nobody knew who I was, and that was fine. Sometimes that didn't feel good. Sometimes I wanted, like, more acknowledgement, if I'm honest. But like overall it was kind of cool to see and do things, but then like my face wasn't on them. So this is like a wildly different world. But I think a piece of that is I get really sometimes worn down by it, like being on a screen
Yeah.
or like having my face more or having people know who I am. And it makes me I'm an overanalyzer by nature about every single thing in my life. But I think about people who let's say they do a movie. Let's say they're in a movie and then they have a press tour and they're just like every day in front of a camera and then they're at an awards show and then they're doing this and then they're doing that and they're doing that. And I'm just must think like maybe some people are cut out for that. Maybe some people like really, really love it. But I just think it must be so hard on your soul to be in that much demand all the time.
Mhm.
But I was talking to Maritza Giorgio about this yesterday. She's on the Grounded podcast with John Tester. Um, I was like, "Does it break you at some point?" Like, when people like, and it's a wonderful thing, but when people compliment you a lot, is there a point when it's too much that it breaks who you are? It's this idea of, like, what's happened to all these billionaires or what's happened to, like, people in power who are told that they're great and they can have whatever they want or whatever. Like, does it break you at some point to where you start to believe that? And it sort of takes your integrity and it dissolves it. Because I worry about that. I think about that a lot. I'm like, I don't ever wanna do that. Like, I wanna keep my feet on the ground. I wanna maintain my integrity. I wanna be the person I was raised to be. I don't wanna lose that no matter what I do in this world. And she had great advice because she's kind of my guru advice person, but, like, she was like, "No, you have to be a bad person in the first place."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, some people, you hear about celebrities not wanting to get pulled over and get a parking ticket or whatever, and they go, "Don't you know who I am?" Like, but, like, some of that has to be in there already to become that person, to think that you're entitled enough to do, like, bad things to other people or to take from other people or to be Elon Musk and live on an amount of money that could end world hunger and not give a penny away, right? Like, you have to be that person in the first place before that happens in order for that to happen. Because most of us would get to $1 billion and be like, I got to give some of this away. Like, I can't,
Yeah.
there's no way to spend this kind of money. What can we start doing that's good in the world? And that's, I mean, and that is what I believe is most people would start to do that. But like, there's people who wouldn't. And generally, those are the people who keep on climbing, right? Those are the Epstein class. Those are the people that we see because they don't have that they don't have a lot of empathy in the first place. They don't have a lot of integrity in the first place. They kinda come into this world expecting more, and then when they get it, they just kind of, like, skyrocket. So, but that's a thing that I think about. Like, you know, Substack's amazing, and I'm really grateful for the platform, but, like, how do you maintain not becoming I mean, not this is highly extreme, but, like, how do you maintain not becoming like a next Epstein class or these people who think that they're owed everything. They can hurt people, they can steamroll, like, what stops us all from becoming that person? Anyway,
I
sorry.
think I mean, I think no, 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 it's a good and I think, your guru, like, I think she's right. I mean, I've worked with really big celebrities,
Mhm.
in the digital space, and I've worked, with celebrities in, the Hollywood space. And I've met some people that have worked in the industry for, like, decades, and they're humble, and they're down to
Yeah.
earth, they're good people, and I've met some people that have been in it for, like, 10 minutes, and they're insufferable,
Yeah.
and it's I think it comes down to, like, again, how you're raised, your values you hold, and everything
Mhm.
else, and no, the burnout is real. I don't do nearly what you do or, like Nick Perro or other creators that,
Mhm.
people who do, like, Walter Ryan, all these people I'm seeing like, wow, man, they're doing a lot, and I burn out.
Mhm.
I get where it's too I and where I some because I feel like when someone will compliment my writing or, they'll say, "Oh, that's really good insight," or "It's this," or "It's
Yeah.
that." I feel like I have to live up to this, right? Because part of what I do is
Mhm.
is I wanna try I'm like, "Okay, well, I wanna try to help people make sense of this," right? Like, I
Yeah.
have this background, I have this knowledge, not on everything, but on a few things, and I want people to try to like, "Oh, here's what I think, and here's how you should look at that." And that's
Mhm.
kinda how I always try to approach what I write.
Right.
And it's too much sometimes because, again, like, I had to recently say, "Man, you have to" you I told him I had to sit with it and say, "Man, I gotta be more dispassionate about these politics because it's gonna eat me
Mhm.
alive."
Yeah.
because I can't be in this thing every day and get outraged and get so emotionally wrapped up. It'll just spend me because these people, they don't care. Like that's their goal, you know? And it's hard to do that when really horrible things are happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it can be overwhelming, but I think the
Yeah.
fact that you're asking these questions and that if you're doing it for the right reasons and you're reevaluating
Mhm.
the fact that you're reevaluating that, these people would never think twice. Never. Like they would never stop to think, am I doing wrong? No, they already have their
Mhm.
self-justifications for it, you know? That's
Yeah.
why when I talk to people about it, it's like, well, why did they become this way? And is there any no, they're just bad people,
Yeah.
you know?
They were
They're
probably
bad
raised by
people
bad
because
people.
they're bad people. They're devoid of
Yeah.
any shred of humanity that would give them pause,
Mhm.
that would say, this is wrong, you know? And that's why getting back to Michael Wolff and Michael Cohen,
Yeah.
they're the same way, is
Yeah.
because there wasn't a point at all, to your point, as
Mhm.
people who've exposed these assholes, is, "Man, I really should report this to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I really should speak out about this. This is wrong." There was no moment
Mhm.
that happened when they saw an abuse, like, a young girl, a child, where it's like, She's obviously been abused,"
Yeah.
right?
Or
They
she's
all
not
worried they
her parents are not here.
right, "Our parents aren't here." Thi
Yeah.
like, there was no feeling, they go, this is wrong. I shouldn't be
Yeah.
here. Like, I should do
Yeah.
something." Like, that empathetic connection that you have with someone who's another human being who's in obvious
Mhm.
distress, none of that happened.
Or they could talk themselves out of it really easily.
Right,
Like,
because
"It's
it's like, "Oh,
probably
well,
fine."
I don't wanna lose my access to Jeffrey freaking
Yeah.
Epstein."
Yeah.
Like I told I said, "The problem we have now, and this is why we're gonna wrestle with this in our politics, it doesn't matter if there's a blue tsunami in 2026 or we have a
Mhm.
Democratic president in
Yeah.
2028, we are gonna wrestle with this is the fact that the only reason Donald Trump was able to get in power at the levels that he has twice is because there is an entire the system that was supposed to stop men like him not only didn't, it enabled him.
Mhm.
He's an idiot, a moron, like the what
Right.
ancient philosophers would call the worst degenerate, just a slug of a
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
completely driven by no humanity, no civilization, no self control. And
Mhm.
yet he got into power, not because he was born into it, not because he was the son of a
Yeah.
king. And well, that's how we have it. And there's no, at least then you have an excuse, right? It's like, well, that's
Mm.
our system.
Yeah.
He's the son of the king. He's kinda in next in line. No, people in America said, "That's the guy.
Right.
That's the guy right there." And the people that were supposed to stop him and check it
Mhm.
didn't, because they're like, "I could make a buck off of this," or I could get this, or I could get that." And now
Well,
we're dealing with it, you know?
yeah, well, it's interesting because it's like that chain continues. Because now the people who know the things that Michael Cohen is doing now, like, not even just back then, but the stuff he's doing now that are kind of clear indications of his intent. So he's going back and he's doing this Laura Loomer podcast, and he's going on Laura Trump, and he's, meeting with Michael Wolff, and, or the people who are around Michael Wolff. Like, I had a pretty decent, email thread with Joanna Coles a couple days ago. So Joanna Coles is from the Daily Beast. She's the person who always interviews Michael Wolff. I mean, this is nothing on her character, but her voice is so strikingly like Ghislaine Maxwell's voice, like to a T. It's frightening, but that's not her fault. Um, but like these people who are in their orbits now are doing the same thing that they were doing for their people and for Epstein. Is they can see these pretty vibrant clues, and they're going, "Yeah, but maybe not," but they told me they're fine. And with Joanna, she's like, "Well, I read the emails, and we talked about them." And I said, "But I think that was in November, and we got this giant pile of emails in January." And I think it's important, whether you continue to interview him and whatever you choose to do, to just know what's what's said in these because it's pretty upsetting. Like, there are emails that I haven't even shared on like Substack yet because I'm asking people first if I'm allowed to share them because there's people in places where they're not supposed to be, giving information that they're not supposed to give. And 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 so you now have sort of people, I would say smaller groups of people now, because I think there are people going like, "Hey, this is not okay. I recognize it for what it is." But you have people around Michael Wolff and Michael Cohen who are going, yeah, but I don't wanna lose that vein because, Michael Wolff has so much information about Epstein. I don't wanna cut that off. But it's like, for the information you're hearing from him, there's, like, this whole pile of shit over here, right, that you're not
Right.
hearing from him. And it's so much information that's so much more important. Um, and it's also one of the things where, like going to Congress and going, "Hey guys, maybe this is something to pay attention to because this guy has a ton of information that he's choosing not to share, that he talks about frequently that he has, but refuses to share publicly. You may want to look into that." And they go, "What are you talking about? We've never even heard of this." And it's like, this is something that's been talked about for over a year that he has these interviews. But Congress is not hearing that Michael Wolff has 100 hours of interviews. So we are telling,
Mhm.
hey, by the way, pay attention, look over here. And then it becomes like this fight about ethics of, can you subpoena a journalist and their sources? But his source is Jeffrey Epstein. Like, that is his source. It's not like he's it's not like he's outing, somebody who wants to be a Jane Doe. His source is Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but he's also like the kingpin of this investigation. Like,
Yep.
and I think there's a valid argument for saying we want to subpoena, if not Michael Wolff, we want to subpoena these interviews that you gave with him. But then you start to bring in Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen right now, I keep my distance from Michael Cohen. I blocked him a long time ago because he was in my DMs, not being very nice, and so I just said I'm good. Um, but he, objectively hearing all this stuff and these podcasts that are going out, he feels very, almost a little bit frantic.
Mhm.
And I think that, part of that's probably internal and him trying to decide which side am I going on at this point because I'm losing ground on one side, clearly. Um, but I don't think anybody wants me on the other side, you know. But just ultimately, I think the frantic comes from that idea of a pardon. It's something he wants. He said he doesn't want it, but then he goes, on Joyanne Reed, he's like, "I don't want a pardon." He goes, "But I do want Trump to sign on this paper right here." This paper right here. And she goes, I think that's a pardon."
That's a
And
part.
he goes, "No, no, 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 no." Um, because I think there is a little bit of heat on him that of course he knows something. Again, it's this idea of being in the room for a certain period of time and knowing absolutely nothing and how impossible that is, right? He originally told me in a live stream that he had never once heard the name Jeffrey Epstein in all the years that he worked for Donald Trump. And I remember going like, at that point I was still like, "Oh, Michael Cohen's here. That's kind of cool. I've never met this guy." And he
Mm.
said that and like this cold feeling in the pit of my stomach just went brrr, and I was like, that is impossible. You can't, like, went too far, Michael. You can't say that. Like say something, but that's too far clearly, because he worked for him for 12 years, and then later he said, "I was in Trump's office 6 to 7 hours a day." And then he says he gets this file on Katie Johnson, which I don't think anybody's accusing him. I don't know what happened with the Katie Johnson case with Michael Cohen. I don't know if anything did. That's not the point. The point is he knows a lot about the Epstein case and things that were involving Donald Trump, and he said he brought the file and dropped it on Donald Trump's desk. And so it's like, if you've never heard of Jeffrey Epstein, what file are you dropping on Donald Trump's desk to talk about the Katie Johnson file? Like, that's the Jeffrey Epstein file. And it just became like these things just sort of unraveled, um, and it just felt very scrambly and very frantic. And so then you feel this veer toward like working harder toward a pardon because like everybody in his realm who also went to jail for Donald Trump got a pardon, right? Except Michael Cohen. Um, and so you wonder now, like, is that extra push for that pardon because there is heat on the idea that he does know something? I mean, clearly in these emails, it shows that he was willing to share information about what he knew. And so what is that a problem? Does he need to be subpoenaed? Is there is there some I mean, there has to he can't know nothing being in that room 6 to 7 hours a day
No.
because Trump is like a leaky valve. Like, he talks about everything. If Epstein is anywhere, he would have heard about it. That's not to condemn Michael Cohen for, like, being a part of the Epstein files, but, like, in a case like this where you have now hundreds of women, but at one time they were children, like, the core soul of a person not being willing to share every iota of information in order to help what was a group of children
Yeah.
from a predator, I don't understand that mentality. Like, even if it's detrimental to your own actions, like having like that come to Jesus moment, right? They always talk about the come to Jesus moment. Like, I was in a place, I didn't do something wrong, but I know something.
Mhm.
I can look at my kids at night. Like, I see I have children. I'm gonna have
Mhm.
grandchildren someday. Like, this is the world that they're entering. I need to go say what I know, right? Because at this point, there's so many people, I doubt they would arrest him for knowing something. They would say thank you. And they would say that helps the investigation. Now we can take it in this direction. But everybody is so freaked out about their own legal protection
Yep.
that they're willing to take this group of then children and scoot them to the side and say, I got to protect myself. You
Yep.
know, me, the 60-year-old man, I gotta make sure I'm okay and my bank account's okay. And like, and I just don't get that mentality. I get that they're scared, but I don't get the mentality of putting yourself before kids. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Well, because you're a good person. And, I
And I
mean,
don't feel like
and
it takes that much goodness. You know what I mean? Like, it's baselines.
but what I mean, I kinda was there where you are, right, asking the
Yeah.
same question. Because I mean, I still do that because you look at, like, how could you not do this? And
Hmm.
I've ceased trying to figure it out, right? Like, I've
Yeah.
really just gone to the stoic reaction of just, like, you do more good things than bad things, you're a good person. You do more bad things than, you're a bad person. And you can change at any moment, like, you can start down the
Right.
path of one way or the other, right?
Right.
And we can get into the psychology of it, and it's like, "Oh, well, it's Trump. Oh, it's this. Well, it's this. It's this. It's this." It doesn't matter at this point. I don't care why Michael Cohen is doing what he's doing. By the fact that you're not saying what you did
Mhm.
now, and you can to help get these now women justice, or the
Right.
ones that we don't know about who are buried in a shallow grave or maybe got thrown out to the sea or,
Mhm.
whatever. Is you are now you I to me, it's just as it's worse
Yeah.
because this is out in the public and you could do something, you choose not to. And yet,
Mhm.
you want people to pay you and you want people to listen to you and you wanna have an audience. No,
Well,
and
let's
it's
play
I throw
devil's
Joe Rogan
advocate.
into that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Tara Palmer, like, she's a reporter on here, and
Oh, Mary, yeah.
yeah, Palmieri, there it is. Sorry, apologies to that, and Don Lemon, and I took her to task because she was getting pushback because she was on a stage talking about media with Ben Shapiro,
Mhm.
and one of the things when she interviews horrible people, like,
My wife
George.
is a doctor. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, it's like well, I'm interviewing these people and blah blah blah. It's like, but you're giving, and this is the question we have to ask, man, is like, you're giving them a platform. You're sharing your credibility on stage with Ben Shapiro, who has been instrumental in enabling fascism in America.
Mhm.
Without him, like, it doesn't go as far.
Yeah.
And so it's like, no, you don't need to interview these people. They need to be shunned. They need to be, like, pushed out and say,
I agree.
these
I
people,
agree.
yeah. These people are unacceptable. They don't get to be in the public space anymore.
Mhm.
Like, it's like, if it's me, it's like, "Oh, you wanna debate Ben Shapiro?" No. I don't wanna give him any credibility,
Yeah.
period.
No. Yeah.
Not at all. And that's how people should feel about Michael Cohen and Michael Wolff. It's like, "Hey, what do you know?" "Well, I've got these video." "Are you gonna share them?" "Well," it's like, "Then you're a freaking degenerate and you're wrong."
Yeah. If
You
they
know?
wanted I would never go I don't think I would ever sit down and talk with them because I think I would be, just arrogance to arrogance. I think I would probably be crushed by a conversation and walk away feeling like I panicked or didn't say the right thing or whatever. But if I did, I wouldn't do it on camera. I would be like, "No, I wanna sit in a room and just talk with you." Like,
Right.
where you're not performing, like, you're not there's no audience, like, I wanna sit in a room and talk with you and ask you questions, because, like, there is that idea that, okay, they have all this information, whatever, they'll leak it out, drip, drip, drip for money. I don't think that's the case anymore with Michael Wolff, honestly. I think it's more that he saw how much he said in those emails, and I think he's probably pretty concerned about what was said in those interviews, because nobody else has really listened to the whole thing, and he can't edit them down because there's 100 hours, and that's a lot of work, and, um, but, like, if that was the case, let's play devil's advocate that that is the case that these men want to use this information for money, like, they could make $1,000,000 on Substack. He could leak those interviews one at a time and put them behind a paywall and get 1,000,000 subscribers immediately, like, you know what I mean? If that's what he wants, but he wants, like, the notoriety of, like, a major book deal, and I get the feeling that people don't really I mean, I could be totally wrong, but, like, that people don't really wanna work with him as much anymore. They don't wanna give him the book deal anymore because you read in these emails, he's really shady with the publishers. He heard that, James Patterson was writing a book, like an expose on Epstein, and, I don't a lot of people have their feelings about James Patterson, but this was gonna be a book that, like, it was a tell-all. It said everything that he did and talked about
Yeah.
Epstein's life, and he found out about it like Michael Wolff did, and so he started emailing the publisher going, "Oh, hey, I'm a huge fan. Could I read the manuscript before it's published? I'd love to see what's in it." And they're like first there you can tell they're kinda starstruck. They're like, "Michael Wolff? Oh, sure, we'd love it." And then he starts asking really weird questions. He's like, "Isn't he a nonfiction author? Like, what's he doing writing fiction?" They're like, "No, this is nonfiction." He goes, "Oh, is it?" And, like, he just starts pushing and you can see them back off. You can see them go, "What's going on here?" And so he finally asks, "Would you mind if I read the manuscript before you publish?" And they're like, "Sure, but you have to sign an NDA." And he's like, "I'll totally sign an NDA." He signs the NDA, and then he forwards the whole email thread to Epstein. The whole conversation, he sends it to Epstein.
Wow.
And eventually, they never sent him the manuscript because you can see that they figured it out. They were
Yeah.
concerned and they're like, we're not gonna give this guy the manuscript." But he was forwarding all this information about this book that was being written about Epstein. He was forwarding it to Epstein and then being like, "I'll sign your NDA. I won't say anything." And there was a lot of like this shady stuff. And the same thing for the New York Magazine article that was supposed to come out. And that was those pictures that came out, I don't know, 3, 4 months ago by Christopher Anderson that were all the photo he's the guy who also photoed, like, Susie Wiles in the White House, and they were very Wes Anderson. Remember those pictures that came out with all the White House gang? So this guy also found all these pictures on his hard drive of Epstein and Epstein's house, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, this was for an article for New York Magazine that never happened, and I didn't know I still had these photos, and I just found them on my hard drive." You listen to Epstein and Michael Wolff talking about this article because Michael Wolff was supposed to write the article. He's sending it to Epstein, and then, like, all of a sudden, Epstein goes, "Oh, look at this part about all these girls. Where did this come from in the article?" And Michael Wolff goes, "Oh, our editor added that in. She's a woman." And they realize he goes, "Don't worry, I'll get rid of that part." And, like, all this, like, "I'm gonna take away anything that makes you look bad," and then finally, Epstein, like, says, "I'm not doing the article," is ghosting, and the people from the magazine are going, "Michael Wolff, have you heard from Epstein? He's ghosting us, we gotta publish his article," and he's like, I don't know what's going on," and then he turns around and forwards the whole thing to Epstein, right? Like, it's such a like, this double agent of corruption and power and the things that he wanted. Like, he was being invited to the island. I don't know if he went or not. I haven't gotten that far. Like, and then he comes out with all this stuff now where he's like, "I met the devil. I looked at Epstein and he was the devil." And it's like, you did not think he was the devil. You were pals. And so that's what I have a problem with. If people are going to be interviewing him and giving him a platform, they need to like ask bold questions and not let him steer the conversation, right? If he says nobody wanted my interviews, be like, "I want your interviews. Give them to me right now. Let's download." Right? But nobody's saying that. Everybody's really like, "Ugh, he's being arrogant. I'm gonna like ask the next question." And I'm not gonna sit down and interview him. I don't want to. I don't like being in confrontational conversations, but I'm gonna pay attention to this stuff and I'm gonna keep writing about it because I don't think anybody else is talking about Michael Wolff. I feel like nobody else everybody else is like, "Oh, he's the Epstein whisperer. Great. Let's go to him for all the information." And it's like, he's the Epstein whisperer because he hung out with the guy for 20 years. Like, what
Right.
else do you want? Like, there's a
Yeah.
reason he's the whisperer.
Right, he and he didn't do it out of the goodness of his heart. It wasn't like,
No.
"Oh, I'm trying to get in."
Mhm.
And that's the thing to your point is and this is the big problem with our media and why folks like us are suddenly have a platform is when we really shouldn't because the gatekeepers and the people that are supposed to do this job don't anymore because Michael Wolff would never agree to a confrontational interview,
Mhm.
you know, and neither would Michael Cohen. And they go on these these friendly and these people that want to put themselves as journalists. It's like, well, I talked to them. It's like, but you didn't ask them hard questions. You gave them a
No.
platform to spew their nonsense. And it just makes things worse,
Yeah.
because it's and well, I'd never get another interview and they'd walk out. Great,
Great. Good job.
fine.
Then do it right the first time.
Right, just ask them, and if they, "Oh, well, they quit," and it's like, "Here's why he quit," and then you just go down the list.
Mhm.
It's, "Well, I might get sued." So what? You know?
Right.
Like,
I know.
it and we've it's kinda like it's creeping surrealism or creeping it's mission creep, right?
Yeah.
We've created this permissive system in media that lets people like Trump flirt. It's well, what's the point of fact checking him because he's just going to lie. You still do it.
They'll do
You
it.
know, I
Yeah.
mean, it. Let him have state-run media if he wants to, but then if we actually did that, maybe we don't have Trump as president. You know, maybe we
Sounds
don't
simple.
have this,
Sounds so simple.
right? But I think what it is it to your point, it takes people that are willing to risk, and that's the challenge, right? Is because you have people that are not willing to risk, like Joe Rogan starts his podcast by just being kind of quirky and doing DMT and just hanging out with different people in LA and, having and he's an interesting interviewer. Like he's a good interviewer.
Mhm.
But then that eventually moves to I'm moving to Austin, Texas to save money and I'm going to have Elon Musk and I'm going to have Jordan Peterson on multiple times. I'm going to have this and have that. And, now I'm making
Vacuum.
compromises.
That's the
I'm going to
vacuum.
have Trump on, you know, and it's like, I'm going to jump on this train because because I'm talking to my people and they're saying, well, your audience is skewing this way and this is the demo. And so you kind of need to go over
Mm.
here. And before you know it, it's like you're moving you find yourself one day like, "Oh, crap. I'm MAGA."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be really bad at that. If somebody told me you have to skew the way you think and speak and, like, people have tried that before and they're like, "Let's veer away from this subject matter." I'm like, "No. No, I'm sorry, no. I'm not sorry." Like, I'm not
No,
going to.
but back to your point at the start of this conversation, like, how do you know is like, that's a choice you make, right? And you make it
Mhm,
you 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 make it almost every day. And, and the higher you get with this is like, you have to be more conscious of that because you are gonna have well-meaning people that are employed by you that, like say, and I've been part of that staff where it's just, you're going over the numbers and you're saying, "This is where your audience is at, and this is what they want," and da 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 da. And it's like,
mhm,
you should if you skew here, we think you're gonna get more here. And it's like you can see the shift happening. Like you can see it. And some people are like, no, I don't want to do that. But when it because again, you're overwhelmed, then you're looking at this and you go, okay, yeah, I gotta trust the people that are telling me to do this. I gotta
mhm.
trust that they're right. And so I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna be here and then, the problem is you make that compromise too many times. You wake up one day and you're like, you're Michael Wolf and you're like, oh shit. Or Michael Cohen, and you're like, oh crap. How many conversations? What did I do? Oh man.
Yeah,
I might be in trouble,
yeah,
you know. But that's where they're a bad person is because their first instinct is like, "Man, I may have done something wrong.
Right.
How do I make this right?" It's, "Oh, shit, I may have done something wrong. How do I save my ass?"
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like, yeah,
It's
it's like that idea when you're in the wrong situation and you know, like, that instinct kicks in, you have that little feeling in the pit of your stomach, and you wonder with these people like, because usually you act on that and go, "Oh, I should probably get out of here." But, like, I wonder when that feeling goes away, you know? And how many rooms do they have to be in before that feeling goes away? It's probably not very many.
I mean, honestly, a part of me is just like, I think, it's what's the stronger impulse,
Yeah.
What is it? Because again, like, I mean, one thing that I'm a f a firm believer in is, like, I think most people are setting their mind on what they wanna do. They just wanna find a
Mhm.
justification to do it, right? There are people that really struggle with the decision, right? But when it's clear cut, when it's like, you know, it's like you're in a room with Jeffrey Epstein, you've met this guy pre-internet or whatever, pre-social media, you don't know anything about him, and there's all these, like young girls running around, and you're like, "Oh, wait, he's this age and they're this age."
I don't see any parents around.
Yeah, there's that
Right.
moment, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's that moment where you're like,
Right. But
"Oh,
everybody who showed up post, what, 2009 when he got out of jail has no excuse, not a single person.
no," and you have that moment where you're like, "Oh, shit, this guy's" if you're not saying, "Oh, man, this guy's a scumbag," you know, "I don't need to be here. Like, I need to go," right? And, I mean, because again, I when I was dating in the '90s and I was hanging out as a young man in 21, I ran into guys who were, like, in their 30s hitting on 16-year-olds, and you're like, "Oh, you're a douchebag." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, cheers." Right? Like,
Ah,
"No, I'm not,"
yeah.
and you would tell you was like, "Hey, man, watch out for that guy.
Mhm.
He's freaking skeevy, man." You
Yeah.
know? "Oh, I like him young." It's like, "Bro, you're gross." Like,
Yeah.
you're sick. And and that's at very small level. You see something like that, you're like, "Oh, well, he's got something on me." Well, how did he get something on you?
I better hop off. I gotta do a 12 o'clock, but it was so fun to hang out with you.
Always. I love hanging out with
Do
you,
it
Kelly.
again. Yeah, I love
All
hanging out
right.
with you too.
Thank you for everybody. I'll catch you later.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Bye-bye.
good what is it, Wednesday?
I'll see you. Bye.